On my project list, aside from the project names, project stage, project manager, project category, I can add other project fields, detailed information about my project. They will characterize my project. They also make it easier to sort and categorize projects, as well as highlight their characteristic values. As we can see, apart from the standard fields such as project category or project stage, I have also added deployment countries and strategic pillar. Thanks to these project fields on my project list, I am able to easily sort projects, for example, by deployment countries, so that I can see a list of all my projects segregated by countries. Since I know that each of my projects has assigned countries, the list view organizes my perspective and groups projects in a specific way. Similarly, we can set other options, such as specifying by strategic pillar. Let's see how this will look. We can use additional project fields to segregate this list in different ways. We can describe projects in many different ways, and it's up to you to decide which additional project fields you will need. If we want to create such a project field in the system, as administrators, we go to the Administration tab, then System Settings, and here we enter Project Fields. Several such project fields have been added. I already have Project Category, Public Announcement Date, and Strategic Pillar. If I go into New Field, we will see what options we have to choose from when it comes to the type of data we enter into the system. Here we have several options. The first one is a short text, which allows us to manually enter a short name. For example, clients' names. The long text option will allow us to enter longer content and apply formatting. This way, we will be able to add elements such as bullet points or italics in the appropriate project field. Next, we have a single choice list, which allows us to choose between a few options. Of course, I can add more options accordingly. The next type is multi-select, which works similarly, but here we are able to add several elements that meet a given condition, for example, several companies that are our subcontractors. Next, we have a number. It can be any number that we consider appropriate. For example, if a given project involves the production of a specific volume of a product, we can enter a specific number here. The last type is a date, which allows us to add a specific date to this project field. For example, if we have projects based on tenders, we can enter the tender decision date here as a project field. For my project, I will create a new project field. This will concern key suppliers connected to the project, whose information I consider important. Key suppliers. This field will accept several values corresponding to the most frequently occurring companies. I will also add a description. As we can see, in the meantime, I added a new project field, Key Suppliers. I added a description in the form of a short text, which will be displayed, for example, in the settings of our project. We have the option here to choose whether we want this field to be visible on the project list. If we leave this option unchecked, then on our list, which we saw a moment ago on the list of all projects, this field will not be visible. However, it will be visible both in the project settings and, for example, in reports. So it's up to us whether we want this field to be visible and whether we want to sort projects by it. I will mark it as yes. I also added a few key suppliers. It's important that here, by using drag and drop, I can change the order, as well as change the color, for example, which will allow me to sort better by such values. When I click Save, we can see that this category has appeared. If, for example, after a few weeks a new key supplier emerges, I can easily add a new option here to expand the list. Now let's go to my list of projects. As we can see, for now, my new project field is hidden, so let's change that. When I go to the Columns tab and click on Key Suppliers, this category will appear on the right side, at the end of my table with project fields. However, since we don't have any values here yet, we only have the column header and empty space. I will fill in these values for a few of my projects. To do this, I go into a sample project, for example, one of my favorite projects that I have here on the left, like Payflow. When I enter the system information containing the details of my project, the project fields we added will appear there if we check the Project Fields section. And we see that our project field Key Suppliers along with the description has appeared, and we can select some specific values. Here, I will mark a few companies, and if I return to my project list, I see that the values have been added here. I will do the same for other projects. Having added values for the remaining projects, we see them on the right. We can now group by these values. If, for example, I click that I want to see the list of projects sorted by key suppliers, then after clicking, I see that the list of projects adjusts accordingly. Let's move on. Project fields are also important for the project charter. In the project charter, we can include various project fields available in the system. When I open a project charter template, I see on the right that the project fields, including our key suppliers, have appeared. If I now transfer this value to the project charter, then when creating a project charter for a new project, this information will be included in the project charter with the details of that specific project. Another place where I can use my project fields is in project portfolios. If I open a sample portfolio, I will see that in the columns I can add information about my key suppliers, as well as filter projects by specific attributes. As we can see, we have, for example, deployment country added earlier. So let's assume I want to see all projects where the deployment country is Germany, France, and Poland, as well as those for which the key supplier is, for example, the company Northpick. This way, I can manage the entire project portfolio more efficiently at a higher level than managing individual projects by using these project fields. Additionally, if I want to create reports in the system based on these project fields, that option is also available. We cover report creation in detail in another video, which I recommend you watch. However, if we open an example project report that has already been created, let's say for all projects with the status in progress, I can add a column here to display information about key suppliers. This column will then be visible on the right. If I want to organize this view better, I might remove some of these categories to tidy up the display and focus on the information that particularly interests us. Then I save the changes, and we see that this information appears on the right. If I want to filter the entire list by specific suppliers, I click on Filters. Let's assume I want a report showing all projects with the status in progress. I add a new rule stating that all projects must be in progress and the supplier must be Northpick. This way, we build a logical query that will generate the report accordingly. I click Filter, and as we can see, such projects appear, meeting our logical query. Importantly, project fields will also be very useful when we want to present them graphically. If we go to the Summary tab in a report, and in the graphic reports available in our system, for example, under the Reports tab, I can add a chart that shows the status of a given project field. At this point, we can create various reports based on project data and, as in this case, on the entire dataset of projects that meet the criteria on which our report is built. I would like to create a bar chart that will divide my projects in the report by key suppliers. I can also choose other types of charts if I deem them appropriate. When I add the chart, the report will appear, which I can modify accordingly. It shows me which suppliers are involved. As you can see, project fields can effectively organize our projects. If I go into the report, let's choose a report I created earlier based on project condition, I will see a list of projects displaying those that are off track. The list allows selecting a wide range of project information. I choose Strategic Pillar, which I have already added earlier as my project field. After selecting the value to display in the column, we see it appear immediately. Adding new project fields with key data enables easy project categorization and management by attributes like date, name, or drop-down lists, while also building valuable knowledge about projects in our organization, a small feature with many applications. I encourage you to create a new project field in your FlexiProject system, add important project information, categorize your projects, and start working with these project fields. I would also like to encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Like the video. If you have any questions, feel free to write to our support. I wish you fruitful work in the FlexiProject system.